Welcome to The Sensitive Warrior, where feeling everything is your superpower. Hi, I'm Doreen Lang. I'm your host. I'm also author of Embracing Venus, Achieve a Life Lit Up for Highly Sensitive People. I'm also a coach. I help people understand their processing sensitivity, and help them thrive in conditions where normally it may feel it's a challenge. Lights can feel too bright. Emotions can feel too intense. The noise level can be very overwhelming, even when it's just the radio in the background. It is a spectrum. People have said to me, is this autism? And I said, it's not autism, but everyone is on a spectrum, right? We're on this end, there's people on this end. You know, we're all sensitive to different things, but sensory processing sensitivity are people who definitely have this character trait. We have more dopamine in our brains, so we tend to need less stimulation. And we cover about 15 to 20% of the population. So this podcast really helps people understand this a little bit better. We try to throw in some humor, some stories, and some experiences. So I'm interviewing some really interesting people who have this trait and who navigate just beautifully, but will also share their challenges and concerns. So today it is my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Amber Bartlett. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I'm really nice to have you here. You do something that you just don't hear about every day. You're considered a business psychologist.
Yes.
So can you just kind of tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have always had a fascination with psychology, human behavior. But as I grew to adulthood and what am I going to do with my life, I realized I didn't really want to go down the clinical path of psychology, but instead wanted to focus more on how human behavior exhibits in organizations or in businesses or, with colleagues and people. So that's kind of how I fell into the business psychologist, but that's what it means. I now own a coaching and consulting firm. And so I work with business owners to help them understand the psychological impacts of things that they're doing within their business, their communication, their sales, their client experience, their employee experience.
Wow, that covers a lot.
Yes, it is a lot because psychology is a part of everything we do, right? It's all psychologically based, communication based. And so, yeah, and it's things that we don't always think about, as a business owner, right? You're not waking up being like, how is this psychologically impacting me today? But it does, especially business owners, because your life is tied to your business. So, yeah.
Can you give us maybe an example to drill down a little bit? So in case someone's saying, okay, so psychology is involved, but how do you help them? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were just giving your introduction, I even thought about, so in addition to the coaching and consulting, I own a dog daycare facility.
Yeah.
And I know, very eclectic background, but it keeps life interesting.
Yeah.
But one of the things that is prevalent in the pet care industry overall, because I work with a lot of pet care, is this neurodiversity. And, you attract employees who want to work with animals and dogs, right? Because if their brain functions in any different way, whether it's ADHD, being highly sensitive, being on the autism spectrum, animals provide this psychological connection that helps them to deal with the way that their brains function differently. And so that attracts a lot of these, what we call neurodiverse employees. And so one of the ways that, I get it in my business, but working with some of my other clients, that's not something that's always right away obvious. If you haven't had exposure to people who are on the autism spectrum or have ADHD, anxiety, depression, highly sensitive, whatever, you're not very comfortable or understanding how to lead them in a way that works. So you get a lot of them, leaving and turning over because they're not getting what they need. And then you're getting frustrated as the owner. So without rambling, that's just one specific example of understanding the nuances of psychology within your business. I literally help these business owners to understand what it means to lead, employees in general overall, but specifically these ones whose brain functions, and processes a little different than the majority of the population.
That is so interesting. I wrote Embracing Venus for highly sensitive people, but before I wrote them, I've written 3 books on employee retention. And it's called Hang On to Your Stars. And the reason I'm sharing that is because onboarding people correctly, right, is really brilliant, right? You want to catch them early. You want to give them a mentor. You want to give them feedback. And I write about all this. However, people that come in that maybe don't fit into the norm, although I don't even know who fits into a norm. What is the norm?
What is the norm?
But highly sensitive people or people who have sensitivity traits, they're going to feel everything so much more intently, or they're going to feel left out, or they're going to feel. It's always feel. Right?
Yes.
And then the employer, right, is like putting their hands up going, but we hired someone that we could go the same way. Why is this person so, well, they are different. So I love that you're kind of helping them look at these people have these traits. You can work with them, but they're going to need this in addition to that. Or they're going to, so you need to almost take a little mini course in HSP, highly sensitive people, because it's going to help you. So tell me how you involve the animals with that. Are you bringing animals giving them into the workplace?
No. So specifically in the pet care industry, you think you've got, your dog daycares, your kennels, your groomers. It's this actual business industry that is attracting a lot of these neurodiverse employees because that's what they're working with on a day-to-day basis, right? They're like, oh, I get to work with dogs every day. I get to hang out with them, and outside and play with them.
Exactly.
So So specifically, that's why in the pet care industry, we see a prevalence, of
Makes
these
so much sense.
people. Yeah, because they're able, to do that on a day-to-day basis, which makes them feel more in control or feel better, because they're feeling.
Yeah, right.
And the dogs feel, dogs are
the
very
dogs are loving it too, so it's a win-win.
Exactly.
Right?
It's a win-win. Yes, yeah. So that's why I do focus a lot, on the, own business owners in that industry, just because it is so prevalent. And if you don't understand it, the other thing too that you just mentioned is that, I'll get some feedback sometimes from owners too that will be like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like cater everything, what you need to understand is that it's not catering and it's not only one-sided. The more you can understand these employees and how to bring them on board and how to lead them and how to motivate them and communicate with them, your life becomes 100% better. You're not repeating yourself. You're not feeling frustrated. You're not having people run out the door every day. So I just, like to...
And if these people feel understood, they're probably not going anywhere.
They're
because
not
they finally
leaving.
They can go home and go, they get me.
Exactly. Exactly. And some of the best employees, whether you're neurodiverse or not, we all have our strengths and we all have, where we focus the best and where we operate the best and how we're motivated differently. So, while I do call out that there's this, population that tends to be more, it's for every employee. It's so important that as a business owner, a leader, a manager, you're understanding the people because it doesn't just benefit them, it benefits you.
Right, of course. Yeah. Can you, what is the biggest mindset shift that business owners need to make in order to move themselves? What is a mindset shift that business owners need to manage on their own?
Yeah.
What do you see?
That's a good one. And there's so many.
How would
I pick one? I think one of the biggest shifts where I've seen the most progress when it comes to results is letting go of control. And I think as a business owner, and I can speak because I call a recovering control freak, definitely, but that's what brings a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, into having their own thing because it gives them that sense of control. They go into, especially if you're a solopreneur, you don't have a team, right? You're doing it all yourself, whether it's customer service to bookkeeping to marketing.
And I think it's based in fear too.
It is definitely based. It's rooted in fear.
It's rooted in fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that sense of control is how you're making sure that you don't get anything that, is not perfect or that doesn't come as a surprise, doesn't catch you off guard. And so, but as you can't sustain that. It's not sustainable. You can't do everything yourself forever. That's why you see so much, at least I do in my consulting clients, so much burnout. And, I don't know if I want to do this. Just get me to a point where I can sell. I can't do this anymore. And so it's almost and I pull this one out because it's most rewarding for me to take someone who is in that place of understanding if you can just figure out how to let go, it's like your world and your life opens up, because you feel like I have to control this so everything is known. But if you can and it's not overnight and it's, we do small pieces because it's very overwhelming when you come from control. But man, when you get to that point where you can delegate and ask for help and outsource where, it's like, whew.
Do you find more men than women or do you find that across the board?
I would say I probably find it equally across the board. I feel like female clients, and again, this is stereotyping, but they're more emotional about it. You know, like I tend to find, you know, they're ones that I'm doing everything because I don't want to put anyone else out, or I'm going to do it myself, you know, because whereas a guy is more like, well, I just want it done right, so I'm going to do it. You know, so there's less, there's like more, and again, I'm stereotyping, but
that's what you're
I
saying.
see. Yeah.
So yes, the control.
Yeah.
But that makes perfect sense. I mean, especially if you're a solopreneur.
Yes, absolutely.
You've got it. You really kind of have to have to control everything.
Exactly.
But they're coming to you with the challenge of it, and you're encouraging them and showing them the benefits of delegating.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's hard too. Like I work with a lot of clients who come to me and they're like, I've surpassed my capability. Like I'm getting so much business that I can't do it myself, but I have no idea how I'm ever going to trust anyone to do, you know, so it's a big hurdle. That first employee, it's a hurdle and it's a challenge to get over that. But yeah, that's why it's so fun though, when you go back after and they're like, I can't believe, you know, I have so much time now and I'm, you know, it's working out. And it's like, oh man, that feels so good. Cause now you see what it can be.
Right.
Yeah.
So now do they see that? I mean, what would you consider one of their most common blind spots?
I think it's really just the fear, you know, it's the fear of no one's going to do it the way that I do it. Like there's just, you know, which is true. No one is going to do it exactly like you do it or have the passion for it. You know, but I think one of their biggest blind spots is just if I don't do it, if I don't control it, it's not going to be done right. And that is actually blocking them from so much more and so many bigger things, you know, because once you can let go, I mean, no one is an expert in, I just hit my thing. No one is an expert in everything. We can't all be experts in everything. And so if you know, yes, there are pieces of your business and there probably will not be anyone that has the passion that you do for your business, but there are people that can do things in your business better than you can do them. And I think it's just, letting that be okay.
So when people get in touch with you, are they mostly solopreneurs? Or are they the larger, medium-sized companies? Or who do you find that your clients right now looking?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say probably the majority over the last 12 months have been solopreneurs. A lot of them at that point where they're like, you know, my business is growing and I just don't know what to do next. I don't know how to grow it. I don't know, you know, how do I know if I want to grow it? You know, do I want to keep it small? There's a lot of factors there. You know, some people might decide, you know what, I want to do everything myself. And so that means I have to stay at this level because I can't do any more. But the majority of them are, you know, I want to build my empire and I'm at the point now, you know, that first kind of pivot and I don't know what to do.
So are you helping them build it or are you helping them just really get an understanding of where they're at so they can embrace it?
Both. Yeah. So that's what I love about my work because especially, you know, yes, I say business psychologist, but there's still that psychology piece. And I get really excited and passionate about the whole, you know, mindset and digging in and understanding your unconscious beliefs and why you're making decisions that you're making. Because there's so much behind that, you know, and so that's always where I start because I need to understand, we both need to understand where are you starting from emotionally and mentally to then know what is your next best step, you know, because if you don't understand why you've been doing what you've been doing, how are you going to know what you actually want to do next?
So, Dr. Amber Bartlett, can people use their insurance with you? Are you considered a psychologist in the sense of the word?
No, that's on the clinical side.
Okay.
And so, business psychologist, I don't take insurance. It's just all self-pay.
I mean, people are going to people need you. But for the listeners who are saying, hey, I wonder if I can also get a little help with this while they're just helping me with the business.
And that happens a lot. You know, it'll be like, oh man, I feel like I have a business therapist, you know, like that happens a lot. So I do have to tread the line carefully. But there's just so much there. You know, I always tell people I'm probably not going to help you find your inner child during our work, but I will help you to understand, you know, why you're doing, what your beliefs are impacting, and then how that takes you forward in your business.
That's so fundamental,
you know. Word. Yes.
So can you just maybe share a story of a client that called you and did the work you did together that was just maybe something that kind of sticks with you that was was either really interesting or the results were just kind of surprising or just can you share a story?
Yes, absolutely. Let me think. This, I'll share one. It is in the pet care industry. I have a woman that I was working
pet
with.
care industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The pet care business industry. So, she owned a dog, care facility, and I'll never forget. Always I have potential clients before we meet, fill out a questionnaire, just kind of gives me, background, like, on your, situation with business. What have you done? What have you not done? And one of the questions I always ask is, what is one of the biggest wins that you're proud of thus far in your business? And I will never forget, we get into the conversation and I ask her the question and she says, literally, that I haven't quit. And I thought, okay, I'm kind of sad now. Like, that just made me kind of sad. But she was literally in such a place where, she was kind of at that point, like we talked about before, where I don't know what to do next. Do I just say, forget it? I can't sustain this. She wasn't getting new clients. Like, she just felt stagnant. She didn't have the energy for it. And she literally felt like her biggest win was that she just hadn't quit yet. And
this was her own business?
It was her own business. Yeah, she owned it. Yeah, she founded it, started it, from the ground up. And so what I love the most about the story, I work with clients on either 6 months or 12 months basis, because I used to do 3 months, but you can't find the progress yet in 3 months that I like to see. So we do sense. 6 or 12. So we had been working, she finished, she was coming up on her first 6-month engagement that she had done. And we got on the phone and I said, okay, it's almost been 6 months. And she said, she kind of like had this panicked look on her face. And I was like, what's happening? She's like, I can't be at the end. Like, I've had so much reason. I couldn't do this without you. Like, I don't know what's happening. I have so many more clients. She was panicking. And I was like, it's okay. We can renew. But for her to go from a place of, I just, can't do this. Like, I can't believe I haven't quit.
And what does that tell you? I mean, it's hard to work alone.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to work in your head. She was able probably to really run things by you, and you were probably being very brutally honest with her so that she would know not to go left to kind of get out of that lane.
Yep.
Because you saw it coming.
Yes, absolutely.
So I can see it being almost like a business coach mentor.
It is. And that's what I always tell people. I say, having a business, and I have a business coach, and I will always have one myself personally, because that third-party perspective that you get from outside of what's right in your face is invaluable, because you can't always see what's right in front of you. And so that's exactly, I always tell people, it's like having like a business bestie that is always in your corner. I always want what's best for you. I'm going to tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. So, if you want someone to just tell you, what you want to hear, it's not going to get you anywhere. And that's not how I work. And so that's exactly what it was. She, we tweaked her messaging. We realized that the way that she was approaching, potential clients was turning them off. And so we tweaked her messaging. Wow. She started to change that.
So you get really right in the detail with them.
Oh, yeah. And, I started again at the beginning, like, okay, if your biggest win is that you haven't quit yet, like we really dug it. Is this what you want? Like, what do you enjoy, about what do you see for the future? And she did want to keep going. She just didn't know what to do. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And so that's what I love about my work, because I'm able to give that fresh perspective. And, she would say things and I was like, well, what about this? How did I not think of that before? Well, you're not going to.
Don't you love that when the lights all go on in the room?
Yes, it makes me so happy.
Yeah, that's why you do what you do.
Yes.
So we had talked earlier about your sensitivity. And you definitely, this is relatable for you, being a highly sensitive person. So that must be really a benefit for your coaching, and because even with your degrees, having that ability to be empathetic and understand. But does it get in the way at all? Do you want to be tougher with people? Not beat them up, but be tougher.
It is. That's a great question. And so I have always been, the highly sensitive person. I'm very empathetic. If I can sense the room, if someone's upset, I'm going to feel upset. It's one of those that I just feel very deeply. And so what that also means is that I set a very high bar for myself and for others. And so to your point, yes, I do have to balance when I'm working with clients on, not being like, are you serious right now? Like, I have to not let the empathy overtake what I'm trying to get from them. But at the same time, I've had feedback so often that from clients where they say, I like, you hear me. It's been so long since I have felt heard.
I bet they love that. I bet they feel like you just like so get them.
Yeah, it means a lot because it is, being a business owner is lonely. It is one of the most lonely things. And you get, especially if you're a highly sensitive or emotional person, you're in your head, things swirl, you know, they fester. So yeah, just that was something that was, I guess, surprising because it's natural for me. You know, that's just what I enjoy. When people say to me, after a conversation, I don't know how you got me to talk about that. I never talk about those things. And so it's not something I do on purpose, but it's just, I feel so grateful to have an opportunity to do something that comes naturally and that I enjoy and that, you know, can really help others without me having to really focus on it, I guess.
So what got you into the animal?
Yeah, so that's a less interesting story, honestly. I was an unemployed corporate person living in Boston, and I was walking my dogs because I lived right in the city, and I kept having people ask me, like, who do you use to walk your dogs? And I was like, me. I don't have anyone. Like, I'm unemployed. I just walk. And I was like, one day the light went on, and I said, it seems like there's a need here. I'm not working. I'm unemployed. Let me just throw up some flyers and see what happens. That's all it took. Within 12 months, I had over 100 clients, 4 employees. I ended up selling that business.
How many dogs do you walk at once?
No, I limited that because I think it's mean. You see those people that are walking like 10 dogs, and I'm like, they're stepping on each other. No, so that's why I ended up with employees because I would only do like a max of 4 dogs at one time. So I'm like, that's just mean. Like, let them enjoy and sniff while they're outside. And I had always grown up loving dogs, you know, animals. I've just been a huge animal lover. My dad actually used to work at the zoo at Disney World. We lived in Florida. And so just, you know, always had like exposure to animals, loved them. He would bring home sick ones that we would care for.
So you grew up around it too.
Yeah, so I grew up around animals, had cows in my backyard. But that's how I first got into the business of it. And, you know, it was funny too, because I'm from the South and dogs are very different in the South. They live in your backyard. You know, they're not like pampered, like part of your family. So my family, I would tell them what I was doing and they'd be like, that's not a business. And I was like, oh, contraire, it is a business. So anyway, that's how I got involved. Ended up selling that one. I was ready to get out of the city, moved down to the South Shore. I have 5 dogs myself. Couldn't find a place where, you know, again, I felt like I need a place that's going to love them like I love them. Well, I guess I'm opening up another one. So that's what happened. So I opened up, and this time we do, you know, the dog daycare and overnight grooming, training. We do it all.
Wow. So you actually, in addition to coaching people on this, you have your own dog training business?
I have my own facility. Yeah. Wow. We do, like, people will drop off every day for daycare, just like you do human, like my 3-year-old. We do overnight boarding. We have hotel suites that they stay in. We do grooming, and then we do training.
So where are you located?
It's in Plimpton.
Plimpton,
yeah.
And what is the name of it?
It's called the Barker House.
The Barker House. That is a great name.
Yes, yeah. And that's what I love about working, you know, with others in this pet care industry, because I'm able to say, you know, I get you. I've done this. I've been here. I have a team of 15 employees and I work on my business maybe 5 to 7 hours a week because I've been able to build it, you know, to a point and use, like, with my, you know, employees and the knowledge that I have about how to engage and keep them. To get to a point where I'm able to do that. Because I love the business, the, you know, daycare business, but it's so rewarding.
So that's why you named your business Barker House Consulting.
Yeah, that was part of it. Well, it just felt right. You know, it's just kind of all, it's very, you know, obviously it's 2 very different things. And I'm just kind of, you know, one of those people, I can't just do one thing. I'll get bored. So I have to do a bunch. And I think it's part of the highly sensitive. I don't know about you, but that's another thing that my whole life, I've always had to stay constantly busy. You know, I people say, how do you relax? And I'm like, what is relax? I do not enjoy relaxing. Like, you love
to be on. You love to be engaged. You love to be on.
I have to be
let me ask you this, as the other perfect person to ask this to. As a psychologist, as understander of people, understanding of dogs, why is it that when you're sitting on a park bench by yourself and a person is walking by with a dog and the dog is curious about you on the bench and the dog starts to come over to you, and the owner of the dog can see the reluctance, right? For whatever reason, the bench, and maybe the person on the bench might even like pull away. And then the owner says, oh, he loves people, right? And you, for your own reasons, whether it's fear, bad experience, allergy, whatever it is, you're just not interested. Why do they get so offended?
I will tell you. It's because that dog is their child. They view that dog as their family, you know? And so that would be like me walking my toddler and someone being like, ugh, like, you know, don't let him get near me. I would be like, excuse you, that's my offspring. And as silly as it might seem to someone who's not a dog lover, that's exactly why they get offended. You just rejected their child.
Yeah. But it's not their child.
It's not their child. No. But it has that, it has the familial connection emotionally. So obviously we know, yes, I didn't bore my dogs, right? But there's so many consistent elements. They still rely on me to take care of them. They give me love unconditionally when I need it. They listen when I need to just rant and vent, so yes, they're different. And if you're not, and sometimes I just say too, if you're not a dog lover, like you're just not going to get it. You're not going to understand it because it is something that's very different. But yeah, that's why there are similarities emotionally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting though, is that the person that with the dog, gets annoyed. And then the person that's trying to avoid him, it gets annoyed. So the whole thing goes wrong.
Yes.
Instead of the person saying, "Oh, okay,
yeah,
maybe you really had a bad." They don't go there. They just get annoyed. And they stay annoyed. They don't. But yet the people on the bench are supposed to say, "I get that he really loves this dog."
Yeah.
They're supposed to be understanding, but they're not understood.
No. And I think it comes down to both, right? Like I can sit here and tell you, yes, the dog owner got annoyed because this person rejected their fur child, right? But at the same time, I would tell the owner of the fur child, you need to understand that not everybody loves dogs. Yes, they're not rejecting your child. They're reacting to a bad experience that they had. They have severe allergies. They have, whatever it is. So there's no excuse on either side. This is where it just comes down to humanity and being open to understanding that people have different experiences and different, concerns and different preferences.
Right.
So yeah, there's no excuse on either side. That's just a good example of being open on both sides.
So as we're kind of sort of wrapping up, what is the work that you're doing now that you love the most?
I think, the work that I'm doing the most right now is
that I love the most.
That I love the most is being able to work with more than one person at one time. So up to now, a lot of my work has been, one-on-one coaching, just like we're doing now. I sit, we focus on your business. And as I've been doing that, because I'm a psychologist and a researcher and a data nerd, I'm consistently, collecting, what are people's experiences, and there's so many similarities that I'm finding between business owners, the same challenges, the same issues, the same perceptions. And so what I'm loving right now is taking that data and putting it into a program that multiple people can go through with me instead of just one-on-one. And there's a few reasons. What that does is, obviously I'm able to serve more people that way because I'm only one person and I can only do one-on-one so much. So it allows me to help and work with so many more people. And at the same time, it gives everyone in this program and in that group an opportunity to connect with others who are in their space.
I love that.
They understand the loneliness. They understand the stress from staff. And so it's building that community at the same time.
I love that. And, I did that with Embracing Venus with the sensitivity. People would come in for coaching, and I would find the same issues. They felt so empathetic and kind. They could not set boundaries. So boundary setting was a huge one.
Yep.
And another one was they really couldn't find their passion in life anymore because they were always giving. So it's returning to their authenticity.
Yes.
So I put a program together so I can help more people because they really. So similarly,
yes,
they fall into certain topics that they're challenged with.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you did the same thing. That's wonderful.
I love it. And I love it for them, because it gives you that realization that,
and the
I'm
community,
not the only one.
Sense of community.
Yeah. You get it.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah,
even though it's lonely at home.
It's lonely.
Go to there and sit there for a while with your laptop and get out of the house if you're that home.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
This was awesome.
So how can people reach you?
I'm very easily found on LinkedIn, Dr. Amber Bartlett on LinkedIn.
Okay, so Dr. Amber Bartlett.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yep. And same on Facebook. You can find me, Amber Bartlett. Barker House Consulting. It's my business, and there's a business page on Facebook. So, yeah, those are probably the easiest on social to find me.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, wow, you're doing some great work.
Thank you.
And the Barker House is such a great name for the dogs and the business. That is so fun.
Yeah,
and it's so nice to meet you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Sensitive Warrior, where feeling everything is your superpower. Until next time, I'm Doreen Lang. You can reach me at yourhspcoach.com. Until then, we'll see you next week.